Did you get engaged?
Well, we went together about 3 months, I guess. And then we started talking about how much money we would have if we could really start up to live, to get married. And of course, we had the farm home to live because Dad owned the farm. But I remember we talked about. He said, "Well, I've got a few sheep I can sell." Remember that, Dad?
No, I don't.
Yeah, we talked about that. We could sell a few sheep.
So shortly after about 3 months after you started dating,
We talked about getting married.
talked about getting married.
Yeah, we did.
So how long did you know each other then before you actually
year.
got married? A year.
Mhm.
Well, tell us about the wedding.
Wedding was very simple. We had Wilson and Faye that stood up with us, and we went to the parsonage. Reverend D married us in the parsonage, and then from there we went to New Bremen. Didn't we? Yeah, we went to New Bremen and had our pictures taken.
Yeah, Taylor's studio.
Taylor Studio took our pictures, and then we went back, and we had to stop at the farm to see that everything was going okay there. I don't know if it wouldn't have been. I don't know what we'd have done, but it was going all right. Then we went to Mom and Dad's, and we had the reception there then.
So the only people that were there when you actually got married were Wilson and Faye.
That's all.
I mean, no, like your parents weren't there, or
No, it was just.
you didn't have 10 attendants or.
Oh no. No.
What did you wear?
I had a blue suit. It was kind of powder blue, and then I wore a hat. Dad just had his navy blue suit.
Yeah, those pictures are probably upstairs yet somewhere.
Oh yeah,
We do have those pictures.
Yeah.
We should get them all down there.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. We got there.
Dad, were you already living on the farm, or were you still at your? Or when did you move into the house on the farm?
The week after we got married.
So Dad wasn't living there before.
In fact, we went to the farm the first night after, when we were married. We stayed at Mom and Dad's that first night. And then from there, we went to the farm. And I can remember that was on Monday, because we got married on a Sunday. Then on Monday morning, Ed's dad came to see us. And that's the only time I ever really talked to him. Because, see, the whole time we were going together, they had mumps over there. So I never really learned to know the family, because I was afraid to get in with the mumps. So I never really learned to know your dad and Mom that much.
And then how long after you were married when did Grandpa die? Then?
Just a week.
A week after you were
We
married.
were married one Sunday and he died the next.
And did you know that he was?
Oh, we knew
You knew that he was
we
very
knew he
ill?
had cancer, yes. And in those days there wasn't too much they could do. I'm sure today they could have done something,
Mm-hmm.
but at that time, no.
How old was Grandpa when he died?
50.
50. Yeah.
And
So-
how old was Aunt Patty at that time? How old was the youngest?
She was 7.
7.
She started to school. See, then we moved.
Yeah, we had 6 of them going to school from the family.
See, it wasn't too long after your dad died that your mom had that gallstone surgery, wasn't it?
Yep.
And then they needed help. This was we got married in April, and this was in the fall of the year then. And then we moved over there and stayed there with her, and I helped her, till she got back on her feet.
And so you took care of all.
Yeah, packed all those lunches and did all that.
But didn't you say that's really when you learned to know Dad's family?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I did.
yeah. And you were how?
That first Sunday, when Ed's dad died, we went over there, and of course the whole family was there, and who was going to fix dinner? Well, Judy, I was only 21 years old. And I didn't know, I had never been in that home. I didn't know where anything was. I've often told Art, I said, thank God you were there. Art came out in the kitchen and he helped me. Because Anna was busy with Mom. You know how that is right after somebody dies. And finally Art says, well, I think that there's some rabbits that you can fix. That they had, and that's what we had from that's what I fixed. But you know, when you go into somebody's home, you don't know where any pans are. Yeah. Nothing.
You had never been over there?
No, because I didn't go there because they always had the mumps.
One gets the mumps and that, you know.
I had never had mumps and I was afraid to go in. So I didn't learn to know the family until after Ed's dad died, really.
And then you just kind of got thrown in.
Yeah. But it was the best thing because then I learned to know the family.
Now, was Anna out of the home already at that time?
Yeah, she was married.
Ann and Dick.
Anna and Dick
Anna
were
and
married.
Dick were gone.
Mhm.
Were out.
And LaRose, I'm sorry, but LaRose was absolutely no help.
That
Yeah.
doesn't surprise
And
me.
Anna would have been, but she was busy helping Ed's mom get over the shock of losing him, you know. So anyway, we had a meal, didn't we, Dad?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, I cooked potatoes and made mashed potatoes and had a pretty good meal.
When did you go on a honeymoon, or didn't you?
We waited until
August.
then we went to Nebraska. Yeah, we didn't take a honeymoon at that time because there was no way Dad could get away.
Were you milking at the farm? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
so you had cows on both farms then?
Mm-hmm.
And
But see,
No,
the milking.
we didn't. We just had cows on our farm.
Yeah, but did your mom and dad had cows to milk too?
Yeah, they had cows.
But see, like Art and them took care of that.
oh, so you were milking at your place.
Dad would go home and milk.
Art was a good.
Yeah, but
Good
see, they
people,
took
yeah.
care of the chores at the farm. But I stayed right there at Grandpa and Grandma's
What year was it that Grandpa died?
in 41.
Same year that Mom and Dad got
Oh, yeah,
married.
that
41.
makes sense.
Yeah, we got married on one Sunday, and then he died the next Sunday.
And then when was, to put it in historical perspective, then when was Pearl Harbor?
That wasn't.
On her birthday.
I know,
It
but
was on my birthday, not that year, the following year.
the following year.
1942.
Mhm.
No?
Pearl Harbor was 1941.
That was
1941.
41.
It was because we didn't
So it
have
was that December then, after you got married in April.
April.
It was that
Yeah.
It
same
was
year.
that December.
See, Harold went to the army. Art.
See, when we went to Nebraska for our honeymoon, and that was in August, I was pregnant with Dale. And then when I came back, and it was shortly after that we had been over to Mom and Dad's, and then when we came home, we turned the radio on. That was the first thing we heard about Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then that changed a lot of things, didn't it?
Oh yeah, a lot of things. But we were pretty certain that Ed would not have to go, because somebody had to help with the farm work. See, his dad was gone,
Mm-hmm.
and of course Dick didn't have to go because he had children.
So if you had children, you didn't have to go.
Well, that helped.
That helped.
That helped.
Depends on what your occupation was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Dick was in helping with getting food for people and that sort of thing, So, yep.
So then when did, like Art and them, when did they leave to go to the war then? And
Art was still here when Dale was born. Harold went before Art did, didn't he?
No, I don't think so. I think Art might have went first.
No, because Harold was gone when was born, and Art was here yet when Dale was born. Art was living with us at the time when Dale was born.
I know.
Well, and Harold was gone already, because you remember when you went and got him that ice was so terrible.
Yes,
And that was about,
We went to Columbus, to pick him up from the railroad station.
and that was before Dale was born.
That was before Dale was born.
Yeah, and see, Art didn't go till after Dale was born.
Mhm.
So-
Who went with you to pick up Uncle Harold?
Well, that was Uncle Gus and, her dad. And myself, and who else? Was it Eugene?
Yeah, I believe Gene went along. Cause Margie was at our house.
And man, was it slippery. That was the slipperyest I ever drove an automobile. And Harold wanted to drive, and I wouldn't leave him because he'd probably ditched it.
He hadn't driven all the time he
Wanted
had
to
been
get
gone.
home, you know, and
He was in a hurry to get home.
it was about, 12 miles an hour was about the limit that you could do.
Yeah, he didn't get home till morning. And there we were waiting, cause Grandma was at our house
Mm-hmm.
with me.
Yeah, we went on the old way to Columbus, on 33, and when we got back, I thought, well, maybe we can come back on, well, what was that then, 40? Yeah. We took 40 from Columbus and on around, thought we'd be south farther, that it maybe wouldn't be so slippery, but it was the same old thing. And Ed Gritzmaker took them back then on Sunday,
Yeah.
So he was home just for,
Oh, just for a couple days.
just while he was home,
Was this after you, how many kids did you have then?
Well, I didn't have any.
and
This was before
Or
sport.
Dale was born.
yeah,
And then the next time you saw Uncle Harold,
I had 3. Mhm.
yeah, it was about 5 years,
Yeah, I had 3. Well, I had, see, Judy and Jerry are just a year apart, and Dale was 2.5 years older than you. So I had those first 3 real close together. Then 8 years later,
9. No, 8.
yeah.
8 years behind Jerry.
So, anyway.
8 good years. What else do we want to ask him?
When was it that you built the new house?
In 51.
1950.
I thought it was 50.
When were you born, Carol?
53.
So
and
we were in
was
the new
home
house.
then.
Yeah,
And we had been there a couple of years. So I guess we moved in home in 51, didn't we?
51.
Yeah, we built it in 50.
Well,
That's
talk
right.
about the old house. What was that like?
Big.
Big and cold and drafty.
What, had anybody been living there before you guys moved
Oh,
in
yeah,
there?
yeah.
Gertie Kyberts.
Oh, good Lord.
And after we moved in there, Gertie moved upstairs. She lived upstairs there. She must
Oh, not too long.
not just too long. Because but she helped me when Dale was born. Gertie helped me.
Mm.
But oh my,
That was a lost cause.
that was not good.
That house?
That was not good.
And I just remember the blizzard.
Tell
That
ya.
had to be in, what, 50?
It must have been in 50, if that's when we were building the house.
50-51.
Yep.
Because,
Now that was in November then.
because the house was up,
We was living in the old
In that
three-room
old-
house
in that old
that
little
we,
part.
that we pulled off to the side.
Yeah,
yeah. And that's all I remember about that house, was that,
yeah, yeah.
you know,
Had that big porch on the east side.
yeah, and I remember taking baths. You'd set up a
Yep.
big tub in the,
Every room you could set a stove in every room. Had a couple of chimneys, you know, and
Oh, that was a big shell of a house.
Did you do much work on it before you
no, we
moved in
didn't do
there?
any work on it.
Because you knew you were gonna build a,
Well, no, we didn't, but we didn't have money to do that.
Well, I talked to Fritz Gerlich at Butkins, and he come out and looked it over, and he said, well, he said, this, you could make a nice home out of this, but he said, I don't know what you'd want with it, the size of it, you know.
See, it had that big open stairway.
So he said it'd be better off if you just pull over, tear it down.
So that's what we did.
So come January, I started tearing the thing down. I tore it down by myself, practically.
Uncle Gus helped.
Uncle Gus, he pulled out the nails and cleaned up the plaster lath, and Gene Kettler helped me once, so. I don't know.
But see, most of that old house all went back into the new house. Our new house only cost us $11,000.
$13,000.
Or was it
$1,300, $13,000.
13,000.
Yeah.
Well, didn't part of the old house go downtown then?
Yeah, it's still there.
It's still there.
Where Mark Counts lives?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
See, that was smaller, that wasn't,
Yeah.
as big.
Who
as
lived in it? How did that get moved downtown?
Well, we sold it,
We
and
sold
then
it.
they moved it down there.
Oh, that was a project when
You
they
bet.
moved that house.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember that.
Yeah.
Who bought it?
Guy from Jackson Center, I forgot his name.
But they put it on rollers, didn't they?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
they
yeah.
rolled it
Yeah.
down.
I can't remember either who bought it, but we sold that off.
Then you lived in the other part.
We lived in the 3 rooms that we moved off,
Well, the big house itself we tore down,
yeah.
Okay.
and we lived in that little part.
That was the oldest part.
And then after we moved into the new house, then we sold that little part.
Oh, I see. So the house that's downtown in Kettlersville is the house you guys lived in.
I sold that
Yeah.
for $600 to this
Yeah.
guy, I can't think of his name, I think it was Gene somebody.
I can't think either who bought it. I just can't. I don't know.
So that house was up, and that's the year then you had the blizzard that winter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. In
That's-
November.
And that's when the hangers in the closet
Oh yeah.
shook.
Well, that was some living we did in that little house
Yeah.
there. We had a bathtub in the back that we. Of course, you had to heat the water to put in it,
But we could pull the plug to drain it.
but we could pull the plug to drain it. Did it go out underneath the house?
Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah.
How long did you live there? I mean, how long did it take to build the house?
Oh, it didn't take too long.
About a year.
About a year probably. A guy from Ray Hankener built it for us.
Yeah, I done most of that by myself. I tore it down and almost done it myself, putting it back.
No, Hankener he did quite a bit of, he did all the planning and everything. I
Oh, yeah.
remember he came out,
Gerlich the farmer.
Gerlich made the plans,
He
yeah.
made the plans.
Yeah.
He was a good lumberman,
Yeah, he
Fritz
was.
was.
Bikens lumber, right?
Fritz Gerlich.
Yeah.
Now, you were farming with horses then, still at that time?
Yeah. I don't know,
What year did you get your new tractor?
Hmm?
When you bought a tractor, that first Farmall tractor you
he had a
got,
brand new one, $1,200.
what year did you get that?
Oh, I don't just know.
We didn't get rid of all of our horses until we put in the, elevated
When we
stall,
fixed up the barn for grade A milk, the horses had to go.
they had to go because see, we put that on. We used to milk down the other side, on the east side of the barn.
Mm-hmm.
That's
where
where
we always kept the calves.
yeah, that's where we started.
That was an
Milking.
old stable. I
Yeah.
remember that.
But when we put the new stable in, then we had to get rid of the horses,
Why did you have to get rid of the horses?
because that's where their stalls were at.
Oh, so you didn't have room for them.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you wanted to be grade A, they didn't want horses in
No,
with them,
no.
did they?
Well, hogs, we got rid of hogs too.
Got rid of the hogs too. The hogs went up to the other building.
We raised, quite a few hogs at that time.
Yeah,
We made good money on them.
and
Well,
we had
you'd hogs and sheep and chickens.
We had sheep and
Yep,
I
we had
hated
125 chickens, you know.
Hated those sheep.
Saturday afternoon, or evening, we'd take the case down at the store. We'd buy the groceries and throw them in the case, and we didn't have to box it up any other way.
Every time we had that old sheepbuck. Every
Yeah.
time I went out to hang up clothes, he'd butt me over. Hated that sheep.
Well, I can remember butchering chickens.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, we had them in the brooder house down there, you know.
we'd
Oh.
butcher them and then what did we do with them? Did we,
All I remember is you chopped their darn
We
heads off.
cut the heads off, and
Threw them on the hill.
Yeah.
when they got done kicking, then we'd bring them up and stick them in the hot water and scald them.
Scald them.
We did that down in the barn,
Mhm.
in the parlor.
Mhm.
And I can remember Grandpa John's could pluck a chicken
Real quick.
very quickly.
Yep.
I mean, we were always racing with him, and he'd always beat us.
Yep, he did. He could pluck them in a hurry.
Then we'd singe them,
Singe 'em.
singe the,
Yeah,
have
you
an
had
open
to.
fire, and you'd singe the hair
I did that
extra
over a
feathers,
coal oil
whatever,
stove.
off.
I had a coal oil stove that I used in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
A little 3-burner.
All I can remember is Dad you had those 2 nails on a,
And you stuck the head in there.
you stuck the head
Yep.
in there and then Dad chopped their head off.
Yeah.
And throw them. Ugh. It was awful.
But boy, that was good chicken.
That was good
eating.
chicken.
Better
Yeah.
chicken than you
Shoot.
get today. You aren't a kidding.
What about butcherings? Tell about that. Because I never really got in on that.
Oh my, that
Well,
butcher.
that was a neighborhood affair. Of course, we helped at Mom's. There were
Brian lives.
Didn't we help at Kettler's too?
Yeah, we
yeah,
helped. We helped
we
at Homer
helped
Kettler's.
Ernie Tangeman's. we
And Ernie
helped,
Tangeman's.
and we
Never
went
will
to-
forget it, Ernie Tangeman's.
Then we went to Homer Kettler's, and
So all these families would get together at different places and butcher?
Well, we all helped one another butcher.
So how would a butchering day go? What did you do?
Well, we got up early in the morning and got the
get the fire going.
got the
get
fire
water
going, so
hot-
you'd
hot.
have the hot water to scald the hogs. And then we would, the guys would shoot the hogs and butcher them. And then we would render the lard and everything all that same day.
We stuffed the sausage.
Stuff the sausage.
Didn't you have to dip those hogs into a?
In a barrel.
In a barrel with hot water. That's why we
Then
heated the water
we
for.
had
You had to
hooks,
scald them.
that we hooked in, and we'd pull them up and down,
Why did you do that?
so you wouldn't get them too hot. You get them too hot, then you
Yeah, but I mean, why did you put them in the
To
hot
get the
water?
hair off.
To get
take
the hair off.
off.
You had to scrape those hair all off.
You want to get rid of your hair, just put boiling water up there and get rid of it.
When we went, one time we were down to Ernie Tangeman's, and Donald Brandt was there. And Emmy was doing and if you don't, neither one of you remember Emmy Brandt, but I mean, she talked constantly, just constantly. Well, she was holding the thing to make the sausage. Well,
Donald was cranking.
and Donald was cranking,
He
and
was
she was a
cranking.
talking and a talking and talking, and pretty soon she had her whole lap full of sausage. And she says, Donald. He said, well, you didn't tell me to stop. So he just kept right on cranking, and he knew it was all going in her lap.
So it wasn't going in the casing at all.
No, the casing was,
Then
but-
when we helped Homer Kettler's wife, old Sophie was living yet. That would be Homer's mother.
she was a pusher.
She was something. It was colder than a blazer there when we.
And they were,
butchered that
they
one day, and
wouldn't,
We stuck wood in there, and holy cow, you couldn't even begin to get it warm. And Mildred Quellhurst,
yeah, Quellhurst helped at
yeah, she helped
That
there
was-
too
yeah.
then.
How many animals would you butcher on one day?
Well, 2 or 3.
2 or 3 usually. We usually just butchered 2.
Yeah, we'd butcher the beef a week or so beforehand. And we'd can a lot of that beef, and we had the bone meat then.
See, I always made canned beef.
that we made
always
gritty
canned
out
boiled
of,
beef. And boy, that canned beef was good.
Where'd you cut up this meat?
Well,
Yeah.
we had a big board that we would set up out, and usually out in the garage, didn't we?
Yeah, we had,
Well, at our house, it was in the basement.
Yeah, I was.
yeah,
And then we'd cut the meat all up. Yeah. And render the lard
How do you render lard? What do you do?
in a great big,
butcher kettle, you see
Butcher
them,
kettle,
they're
iron kettle.
still there yet.
and yeah.
And heat it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Then
and
we
then
had a lard
But that
kettle,
had to
you
be
know,
watched
large
very
barrels.
carefully too, because you could burn it.
there's nothing like cracklings right out of the
Oh,
press.
that tastes good.
Did you guys go to school then, or did you
Oh, no, that was we got
Butcher
to
Day,
stay
that
home.
was our day off.
We got to stay home. That was a big day for us. We just had a ball. And I remember Mom doing the sausage and big old like wash tub, and she'd have her sausage up to here,
Oh, yeah, mixing
mixing
sausage.
that all up. It was
Yikes.
it was quite the day.
Now, I don't know that we ever made blood pudding.
Nope.
But
I
over
never
at the Kettlers, oh man, that was a big thing there.
We killed a big old sow there at Homer's that winter. And something.
They had to have that blood
Old,
pudding,
they wanted blood so bad. Ernie Schultz, he stuck the hog,
and it didn't bleed.
and his knife was too damn dull to cut the blood vein off. So there he kept a sticking and a sticking, and he never got no blood at all. So then he went over to the Botkins and got some blood from the slaughterhouse there in Botkins.
How do you make blood pudding?
Oh,
Well, they've got some kind of a meal they put in with that.
see when the kettle that they cook the meat in is what they use to make blood pudding.
That broth.
Huh?
But what kind of meal did they put it with blood pudding?
Oh, I don't know.
But
we
it was
didn't
some
make
kind of
that.
meal that they cooked, and then that would get thick. And then most people had crocks, gallon crocks, and they would put it in that.
This was made from, you mix this with blood?
Yes.
Oh, and they were just crazy for
I
it.
never
I couldn't eat the stuff.
I couldn't eat.
never did.
We never made blood pudding because
Then-
I couldn't eat it.
You put it in the crocks, and then did you heat that to
Oh
eat
yeah,
it?
they would bake it.
Well, we put it in casings too.
Yeah, some people put them in
And we
casings.
put it in that water that we cooked the bone
Yeah.
meat in
Yeah.
from the beef.
But that first year that I helped butcher over at Kettler's, that was when old Sophie Kettler
Old
was still
Sophie.
living. They brought this blood pudding in, say they'd bring this in a big tub like you had the sausage in. And of course I was the youngest one there. And Sophie insisted I had to mix that blood pudding. So I got down on my hands and knees. She just wouldn't have it any other way. She said, you're the youngest, you do that. Okay, I got down there, and I was sick to my stomach because I was pregnant with Dale. As soon as Sophie was out of the room, Mildred Quellar says, you get yourself out of here. She said, that is no good. She said, I don't care what Sophie says, you're not doing that. So then she mixed it. Because you know, to work with that kind of stuff when you're,
Did you know Mildred Quillhurst?
Mm-hmm. She was playing organ here
Yeah.
at the church for quite a few years. I can remember that.
yeah. She was a good organist.
How about your card club and your friends here?
Well, we started a card club soon after we were married. Because we took you kids all with us. And it was Merlin and Elaine, and Dad and I, and Wilson and Faye, and Les and Glenna. Those were the four that we started the card club with. That kept going. We kept, whenever,
Well, that was we kept going in after he closed his business out there, Merlin and Elaine.
yeah. Well, Merlin and Elaine were in our card club until they left Kettlersville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how you met every month or every?
Yeah, every month.
Every month.
And we were together for about 40 years. I know Faye talks about that.
Because we used to. I remember going to all the different places. and-
Yeah, we've always all took our kids along. Yep.
Mom, when you first came to church here, was that church building that's there now, is that where you started going to church when you came here?
Yeah, that was built in 28,
See, I didn't move here until I'm
about the same time the school was built.
37 was when I came from Nebraska.
What about the downtown in Kettlersville? Didn't there used to be more businesses and things?
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
man.
There was 2 grocery stores.
2 grocery stores, the post office was there, and
Well, and where Merlin,
Merlin had his implement store there in
Yeah.
town.
and it wasn't there, and well, there was a barber shop.
Barber shop, blacksmith there. Old Harv Schuster, he sharpened plowshares with that.
I guess that was about it.
How about Langhorse? Wasn't there a dealership there too?
That was before my time.
Yeah, that,
That was before my time.
it was nothing there anymore on that deal.
Well, there was the implement, Holtcamp's was there.
Holtcamp's, yeah.
Over.
And then where Schuster owns that building now. See, that was where Henry Becker was.
I think that's the building that, my mother's folks run that outfit there, the implement store.
Where Schuster owns it now.
I believe that that's where they, I know that they run that place for a while.
Well, that could be. I don't remember.
There's nobody here to ask anymore, so I don't know.
No. Like Myra says, she says, I don't know really what I'm around for anymore, because she says everything I talk about nobody knows anymore. They're all gone. They're all dead.
What about when tell about when Grandpa got hurt with his hand in the shredder?
Well, they was shredding corn, and wasn't it an ear of corn got caught in the belt?
Mm.
And instead of him just letting it go, he took a hold of the ear of corn, thinking he could pull it out. But instead of that, his arm went right around and got into that pulley, and it cut it off right here. And I don't know, we took him to Sydney to the hospital then, didn't we?
Yeah, we went to Doc,
McVeigh?
no, Paul.
Oh, Dr. Paul, that's right.
Yeah, we went to Doc Paul, and he sent us to Sydney.
Sent us to Sydney to the
And he came
hospital.
down, he done the operating then.
Yeah, see, they had to,
Tried to
he
connect him.
had some of these
Nerves
tendons
cut off
were
there.
cut off. And he never fully recovered from that. But that's how that happened. He took a hold of that ear of corn, and instead of letting it go, he kept a hold of it, went around and got in here. Yeah. That's the time when we went, see, Dad had never been in the hospital. When we went to see him, he looked at me and he said, I don't know, Elsie, what they're doing with me. They even took my underwear off. I'll never forget that. He was just devastated that they had to take his underwear off.
And they let us in I remember going to the hospital and seeing
To see him, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, then after that, he did a lot of papering. He would hold his paper with this back of his hand.
And he always had a glove on.
Yeah.
His hand was always cold. He'd
Loretta
always wear a glove.
Gritsmaker would make him gloves.
Yeah, 'cause
She
I
knitted-
remember him always
She
having
knitted gloves for him.
have a glove on because he just.
Yeah, that hand was always cold.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we haven't talked about the birthday parties.
Oh.
From Grandma's.
Oh my, that was a neighborhood gathering.
All we did was eat. I
Oh,
always
they would.
told
when-
you guys to spend more time eating than working when we
Whenever
were shredding
they-
corn and stuff.
Whenever they had a birthday party, you didn't just pass food around. They set the table.
Yep.
It was like a meal.
Oh, those were
They were-
enjoyed.
Oh man,
Those were
and
great
food.
parties.
They had food.
This was this was Grandpa and Grandma Johnson.
Oh, when they
did this.
lived over at New Bremen. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, that was a birthday party. They celebrated everybody's birthday that way.
If we shredded corn there, or if we butchered there, well, we had to get 10:30 in the morning. We had to go in for
For a bite to eat.
For
They were the eatingest people
coffee
I
and-
ever seen.
cookies or cake, whatever they had.
Then we'd have dinner. Then at
Yep.
3 o'clock in the
3
afternoon
o'clock
was
we ate
lunchtime.
again.
Yep. Now those people are all gone. I think there's one of the Keast girls living yet.
How many families did this involve?
gosh.
Well, there was the Keys, there was the Tups, and there was
Keys and Tubbs and, oh, the people that lived right next door were, one of the Tups lives now, what was their name?
Isn't there a Weehies?
Never had any children.
that was
No, Howard Wees were in with us.
There were like 5 families maybe.
Yeah, at least.
Well, how many times a year did you do this?
Well, every time anybody.
every time they had a birthday.
You
So
know.
this went on all
Oh,
year
yeah.
long?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, heavens,
They
yeah.
played cards and
Big time. Big time.
And the kids just kind of went wild.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
It was great. Oh.
And before television, what did you do for entertainment? Now we just watch television.
Well, we played cards a lot.
And talk about your visiting, how often you
And
visit.
we, like Dad said, you didn't have to call ahead on Sunday. Like on Sunday, we would just get in the car and go. And whoever, if we'd stop at the first place and there were nobody at home, okay, we'll go to the next place. We never, that was our entertainment. We would just go until we found somebody home. And on Sundays, on our weekends, Mom always seen to it that she had pies and cakes and stuff baked in case somebody came. You were always ready for company. Because you didn't call ahead.
So
Yeah.
people would just stop by and
Yeah.
in the evenings?
Mm-hmm.
So Sundays were visiting days?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And what about Saturdays? Saturday was like bath day and
Yeah.
get ready for church day?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
cleaning day.
Cleaning day.
Did you have specific days, like you did laundry on Monday?
Oh, yeah. We did laundry on Monday. Tuesday we did the ironing. Wednesday I did the mending. Thursday I would bake. And then Friday and Saturday would be to clean the house and that sort of thing. Oh yeah, that was a ritual. We did that every week like that.
the Siegenbusch, they was in on that.
Yeah, Siegenbushes were in with that birthday business.
And there was
Yeah.
somebody else yet. There's a Siegenbusch, those boys are still living yet. That was,
That Lowell, yeah, Lowell Siegenbusch, that sells
He's
real
a-
estate. That was one of their, yeah.
Carol, what was it that Sarah had there at the
Well, she's got, do you remember a specific time when you were growing up that you got into trouble?
We never got in.
no, we never got into
We
any
never got
trouble.
into trouble. But, there wasn't, really,
There's nothing to get into trouble?
there wasn't.
You didn't argue with your parents or?
Oh, well, yeah, that sort of thing we did.
We
yeah,
don't-
but-
I don't think she means trouble like with the law or anything, but like that would get you into trouble with your parents. Things
Well,
you would do.
Yeah. Sometimes if we took the car and didn't get home in time, or things like that, yeah.
Uh,
But other than that, we just, I guess we probably weren't away from home that much,
Sarah also has down here, if you have a memory of each of us when we were growing up, something that sticks in your mind.
Well, I guess, Carol, really, I shouldn't say this, but you was our hardest child to raise.
there you go.
Let's stop.
We're not editing that out.
You think
And
because
I
she was-
think it was a combination. I was going through the change of life. It was a bad time for both of us. And that was at the time when all this here, over at Kent State, they were having all these problems.
During Vietnam War years is when I grew up.
Yeah, it was a hard time.
And when the three of us were growing up, you had 3 of us to concentrate on.
Yeah,
We
and
kind
when Carol, I just had her.
of divided your.
And now, like you and Jerry were very close together in age. but you never argued. You and Jerry always, and Jerry is that way today yet. Jerry, instead of confronting a problem, he's always been that way. He'll walk away from it. And he did that as a child, didn't he, Ed?
Mm-hmm.
If you and Jerry got into trouble, or you and Dale, or him and Dale, instead of settling the thing, he'd walk away. He always did, and I don't think there is anything we could have done raising him different, because that's just Jerry. Mm-hmm. And he has carried that through his married life. Instead of confronting what's wrong, he walks away.
What?
And unfortunately, he married a wife that does the same thing. Now,
What was your proudest moment of Judy or any of us? Things you remember that you were really proud of us that we did?
well, probably when you graduated from high school, because that was something that I never got to do. Education, to me, was very important, and it was to Dad too. We both always said that we want all of our kids to go through high school, didn't we, Dad?
Yep, I spent 24 years on the school board.
He always said that. He said, I want our kids to all go to high school. And I did too, because I didn't get to do it, And that was, to me, education was very important.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Did you ever think two of us would graduate from college too?
no, I didn't at that time. No, I didn't.
How'd you feel about the boys staying on the farm?
Well, what would you say, Dad? At the time, we encouraged it, didn't we?
Yep.
And we helped them as much as we could. But if we had it to do over, girls, we wouldn't.
Well, you couldn't see down the road
No,
how farming was gonna go.
but that's what they both wanted to do.
We-
They
we-
both could have went to school if they'd have wanted to, but they did
Well,
not.
I always said that I grew up with, I never had any, I always thought I was going to college. Didn't you, Judy?
No. I didn't.
But then I followed you, so.
Right. I didn't, I was not gonna go to college. Remember, until I had a teacher that said,
That's a thing to do.
that's the thing to do.
And I went to college because
Mrs. Brandewee.
No,
Judy
it was,
Mrs. Johns, maybe.
it was my business teacher.
Donna Johns.
It was Thompson at that time,
Oh, Mrs. Thompson.
Mrs. Thompson. She was my shorthand teacher and bookkeeping teacher and typing teacher. And I didn't take college prep classes. I took all those, I was gonna be a secretary. And then I thought I couldn't go to college, and then Mrs. Brandewee, because I had Mrs. Brandewee, of course, for math, and I was very good at math, and she said, you need to go to college. And then Mrs. Thompson, both of them, encouraged it, and I did. And I wanted to be a business teacher because I thought Mrs. Thompson was just
Yeah.
the best teacher I'd ever had in the world.
I think Myra
Yeah.
Kindred was a big one that you kind of,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
because you always liked Myra as a teacher.
I always admired Myra. Still do. Mom, if you could have finished school.
$560 a quarter to go to college at Edith.
Is that what it was at that time?
$560. Carol went to the branch and that was $35.
$35?
No, it
$35?
had to be more than that.
$35.
No, it was more than that,
It
Dad.
had to be more
No, it
than that.
wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Maybe $350. Mom, if you could have done something different, if you could have continued with your education, what would have you done?
I'd have been a nurse. That was my ambition, to be a nurse. But, and this is something that has always kind of been a sore spot for me. When Harold was through the 8th grade, Mom and Dad told him, if you want to go on to school, we will find a way. But when I graduated, there was no ifs or ands about it. I was not going to go on to school.
The dog barking?
I shut him. He's on the porch.
because Dad said, you are to be a homemaker and a mother. You don't need an education. So I was never given the choice to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
But if Harold would have wanted to, they would have either borrowed money or done something so he could have went to school. But Harold
Did he not graduate from high school either?
No, neither one of us did.
Okay, I don't know, I always thought that Uncle Harold did.
No,
No,
he didn't go on to school either.
But he could have,
But he
if he
could.
would have wanted to.
They would have found a way for him
he
to
was
go.
a good fix.
See, Irvin and Herman neither one of them went on from to high school. No, now wait a minute. No, neither one of them.
Because to
went.
go on to high school, you would have had to have lived in.
I'd have had to go to Ogallala and live there.
Okay.
And I think that was part of it too. They probably thought that it would be easier for Harold to live
Away from home.
than for a girl to go. You know. I don't know, but Dad just felt. Now Mom thought I should go. She said if Elsie wants to be a nurse, I think we should be back of her. But Dad said no. She will end up being a mother and a housewife. She does not need an education for that. So that's the way it was.
That's the way it was.
Yep.
So it probably was important to you when we went to college.
Well, that's why I pushed. I said my kids are all going to go. And Dad was, Dad went through high school, and we both said, hey, if there's any way possible, our kids are going to graduate from high school.
And Jerry and Dale could have gone to college too if they had chosen
If they'd have
that.
wanted to, yeah, they could have.
Yeah.
Jerry did take,
He
that
did,
schooling
yeah.
up, but he never really used it
Didn't he work just for a short time as an accountant?
at Montiers, yeah.
And he couldn't.
He
He
didn't
didn't
like
like the being in. Well,
He didn't like being inside.
yeah.
No.
But when we were growing up, you don't remember anything specific about anything that happened, or
Not really.
because Dale was always he had all these grand ideas.
Well, and he's the one that got hurt
Yeah.
because he was so. I'll never forget the time he crawled up on the fence and his feet slipped out and he went over the top. Uncle Gus says I've never seen such black eyes in my life. Because he went right over the top of the
Well,
fence.
hasn't he always been kind of a daredevil?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Always
he
has
would.
been. Always has been.
He was never very careful. Yeah.
That one time Jerry threw that fork and it went right through his leg. Oh my.
Yeah.
Jerry come running to the house. That was right when Jerry wanted to join the band at Anna High School.
Mm-hmm.
He come running to the house and he said, I'll give up band, I'll give up everything, just so Dale's all right. Somehow they got into an argument, didn't they?
They were
Yeah, I
they were
remember what
betting.
And he threw the fork and it went his
Yeah,
mouth.
I remember that. Yeah.
Because I remember I was going to clean it out, And then Dale showed me, he said, oh Mom, he said, it's the holes over here too. So we took him in to the doctor, then he cleaned it all out. He got along okay.
Well, it went right through the meaty part of his
Yeah.
leg. But but really, the three of us got along.
Never any of you really had serious injuries of any kind.
We
None
never
of-
had a broken bone, which I
Right.
think none of us ever had a broken
No.
bone.
And none of you were ever in a bad car wreck while you were growing up. None of you. No. So we were fortunate in a lot of ways.
And not really ill. We weren't very ill either.
The worst illness we had was when Dale had we nearly lost him then. And didn't realize how sick he was.
How old was he then?
He was only. Well, it was when I was pregnant with you, because the doctor came. See, then at that time the doctors came to the house yet, and we called the doctor out for me, And then when he got there, we had him in the kitchen because it was so cold in the house. And we had him in the kitchen. And he took one look at him and he said, I think you have a little fella here that's pretty sick. And I said, well, he hasn't been crying or anything. He said he's too sick to cry. And that's when and I think that's the sickest. Dale had more sickness than any of you, because he always run that high fever. And that's when the doctor told me when he gets that terrible high fever, he said, roll him in wet sheets. We rolled him in wet sheets time and time again to get his fever down.
I do wonder if that had something to do with his urinary tract.
Oh, I think so.
Because then Sarah had that same,
I
you
think
know,
so.
I think that was something that was surrounded, but at that time, they didn't,
There was nothing, no.
there was nothing that they
Uh-uh.
didn't have tests like we did then.
But he would run this terribly high fever. But that's what the doctor told us to do. He said just roll him in wet, and that would take his fever down real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Of course, then later on, after we got a bathtub, I would set him in the tub and splash water on him, and that would get it. But you know, when at first we didn't have that.
No.
So.
Another one of Sarah's questions were, what are your favorite things about each other? I mean, what's your favorite thing about Dad?
I don't know whether there is any favorite thing.
I think what drew me to Dad was I loved his brown eyes. I really did. You know, we never had any brown eyes in our family.
Did what?
I loved your dark brown eyes. That was very fascinating to me, these dark brown eyes. But I liked you in general. I did. It wasn't just your eyes, but that was something that I really noticed about him, though, was his dark eyes. You know.
And Dad, didn't you have real dark hair,
Oh yeah.
black hair almost?
Yeah, real dark hair.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which was a complete contrast to your red hair and green
Yeah.
eyes.
And Dad, what did you like about Mom?
Oh, I don't. She helped me a lot on the farm with milking and choring. Maybe helped me chop corn.
Well, you always worked together a lot.
Yep.
Well, you know, I've often told Neilma that. You know, Neilma never helped much in the barn, and Dale didn't want her to. But I told her one time, I said, Neilma, that's when Dad and I talked. We did.
Mm-hmm.
I said, to me, it was not a waste of time. It really wasn't.
Or something that wasn't something you were supposed to do.
No. But see, Dale and Jerry both did not want their women working in the barn. And whether that was because they knew they wouldn't, or whether I really have not stood that, I don't know. But they never really wanted them to.
But Carol and I always worked in the
Yeah.
barn.
And I did too. And I'm not sorry I did.
No, I'm not either.
No, me either.
No, I'm not sorry I did.
When you were growing up, who were some people you looked up to that you admired?
Well, I suppose my Grandpa Peterson. My great-grandpa Peterson.
Why?
Well, he was in the service. He knew President Lincoln. And to me, at that time in my life, that was very important. And I kind of had Grandpa Peterson up on a pedestal. I did.
Well, we lost a lot of real good guys, people really. Like Paul Snyder and Paul Poppy and Les Vogt and
People that we looked up to here.
right, they
Yeah,
were good people.
We did. I went through our church book here not too long ago. And since when Pastor Jim came, from then until now, we have lost 31 people in death. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And when you look at our congregation now, there's gonna be a lot more in the next 10 years. A lot.
If you had to pass some to us that you've learned that you think it's important for us to know from all your years of living, what would you tell us about living our lives? And what do you think's really important?
I think as far as I'm concerned, I don't know about Dad, but as far as I'm concerned, I think it's very important not to be too critical of people. Not to make a fast judgment. Because sometimes when you get to know, you can be very critical of a person, and then when you learn to know them, you find out you were wrong. So I think it's important not to make too quick a judgment. Don't be too critical. That would be my advice. Because I've done that myself. I've made comments about people and found out afterwards, hey, that's not even so. They aren't like that at all. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Dad would say. What would you pass on to him?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
How important has church been to you?
Very important. That's been the center of our lives. I wouldn't you say, Dad? Church has been the center of our
Oh,
lives.
yeah.
Yeah. That's the way we were brought up. I mean, when Sunday came, we went to church.
Mm-hmm.
We're more lax in church today than what we were through all of our married life.
Well, I know we always went to Sunday school.
Yeah, we always-
made sure that we were there.
Yep, we always that was just, maybe it was habit,
Well,
but, because, some people say, well, going to church is a habit, and it, in a sense it is, but it's a good habit. I think it is. I think it's a good habit.
What are the things you learned from your mom and dad that were important to you?
I think the same thing I just told you a while ago, not to be too critical of people.
Grandpa and Grandma were like that too.
Oh, yeah.
I believe that.
Always give them a second chance. Yeah, Mom and Dad were my mom and Dad were very much like that. They always felt like, always look for the good in someone. Because it's easy to find the bad spots. Yeah, it's easy to find the bad spots.
Well, Grandma always was that way. Looked for the good
Oh yeah,
in every situation,
Yeah.
didn't she?
Yeah.
And your mom and dad, Grandpa and Grandma, what's the most important thing you learned from them, do you think? Besides work hard.
Well, I don't know. Grandma was, what was I gonna say?
I mean, Grandma had a lot of things she had to overcome, but
Yep.
well, like when I was in the hospital, when I had that surgery, this lady that went with me, I'll never forget that. Grandma and Mama always looked nice, and she came to the hospital to see me. And when she left, this lady that was in the room with me, she said, well, there's a lady sure has had an easy life. You can sure see that. And I said, oh yeah. I said, she lost her husband when he was 50. She raised 12 kids and put them all through high school. I said, if you think that was easy. But she thought, just because she looked nice, and she thought, boy, she had things easy. But your mom worked and worked
You bet.
hard. You bet she did. Every Saturday, how many times didn't you tell me? She would wash their clothes up on Saturday and polish all their shoes and because they didn't have Sunday shoes and school shoes. So she'd polish all those shoes and line them all up so they'd go to Sunday school. Yeah.
Well, family was important to both families. I mean, Dad's family,
Family was very important.
at least it always seemed that way to me. They always put their kids first and the family first. And I think that that's, kind of been passed down to all of us.
Well, I felt about as close to Ed's mother as I did to my own mother. Because, well, like Anna said, Anna told me that. She said, I really think that in Mom's mind, she maybe wouldn't admit it, but she said, you were closer to her than what I was. Because she said you was always there. And I said, yeah, Anna, I can see that. When she needed something, we were there. And I think the same thing, Grandma was closer to you kids than she was to some of the other grandchildren, because there again, you always stopped in. He was right there. So.
I think that's the end of our tape, isn't it?
Just about. I think it counted differently than what I was counting. When it was flashing the 1, there was more than 1 minute. But we're flashing zeros now.
Okay.
So, but it's still going right to the end of the tape. But I think that's about it.